Okay, so when we're boating, probably the thing that's most important is the tunes. We get that's just the most important part of boating. You go out there, and if you don't have good tunes, it's only half of an experience. On all of our boats, almost all of them have really good stereo systems. This boat has a really nice stereo system, which is like most of our boats. Most of them, you have to turn them on with a switch on the dash. On this particular one, there's a switch on the dash. You have to turn it on. And there's sometimes a switch inside the jockey box, which you also have to turn on. You can see here it came on here, and now it's coming on up there. And most people are using now Bluetooth. They can do it with their phones, or there's places where you can hook up. There are places that you can, all around the boat, that you can charge and hook up. The main place is in the jockey box. There is a place for a phone or for your music device right there on the dash, which I like because as a driver, a lot of times I'm adjusting music because I've dropped a skier, and if I want to talk to a skier, I want to adjust the music. On this particular boat, there is a adjustment for the speakers on the side of the driver. Many of our boats have this. Most of them have it, where you can adjust right here the fade or how loud it is, either way. So you can adjust it here. You can put your iPod there, or someone in the boat can adjust from their phone or their iPod. Any of that works. These systems are to die for. I run block dances just by simply pulling a boat out in the neighborhood and turning it up. These boats will crank out the sound. Going to the dash, we've got along here, we've got the horn. It's got your bilge. That would be a manual button that you can turn on or off. It does have an automatic bilge. However, that's your on and off switch. There's a blower. That blower should always be turned on, especially in the heat, but it should always be turned on before you start it up. What that does, it takes all the air that's built up with fumes and everything in the engine compartment, and it pushes it out. The other thing you could do that's almost as good is just open up the engine compartment. It's the same thing. You're just pushing air that might have some things that could ignite in it. You're pushing that air out. There's also a navigation. Those are your navigation. And there's a horn. Believe it or not, I use the horn all the time. It's a safe part of one of your safety features. If somebody's boating in front of you, you're trying to get someone's attention. I use it a lot, even telling a skier he did a good job. I'll do that a couple times. In this boat, all the boats that we're running this year have a system that has a little iPod thing up front. It's got a monitor. And on all of them, you have your menu switches along the side. Whether it's a Centurion or whether it's a Supreme or other boats, they all now are running with a similar system. On this boat, I almost always run on home because that gives me a little bit of everything. You can see how fast you're going. You can even adjust your zero off system. That's your speed control system. You can see your ballast if something's on. It can show your depth, and right here, because we're out of the water, it just is all blue. If you go into the next one, that's your surf system. That'll be your quick surf system right here. It shows how you're set up with your surf system. And then the next one is your ballast. This shows you what kind of ballast you have in the boat. It shows each tank. Then you have a navigation system. I tell people to usually use your manual map. These, some of the boats have them hooked up, some of them don't. Don't rely on the navigation. The next one is your lights. You go in there and you can just hit all these. You see all the lights coming on. You see the speakers in this one light up. But those are all your lights. And you take them off just by touching them. It's all touch screen. This next one, stay out, stay out, stay out, stay out. Do not get in it. This is your rider, your place to have riders in there where you can program everything on the boat for each rider. The problem with that, if it gets stuck in a rider sequence, it can leave you hanging and you're stuck in that. So stay out of it. Don't get in it. Don't use it. That's usually for people that have their own boat and they have things dialed in for each rider. Renters are usually taking large groups. They're changing everything, or they don't want to change it for every rider, and so you want to keep it simpler than that. And it'll be hard for you to figure out what the problems are, so stay out of that one. Also, at the bottom, you can see this with this gear here. This is also something that you want to stay out of. This is a lot of cool things if you know what you're doing about how to program all kinds of things in the boat, including some things with the engine. You do not want to go in there for the fact that you may push the wrong thing and it could mess things up. It's got ballast setting, diagnostics. It's got waypoint things, tracking manager, depth, and perception. But these are all things that are done at the factory. And if you mess with any of those things, it could actually mess with your experience on the boat. Okay, so when you're regularly trying to just take off and go, you want to make sure the zero off is off. That is your speed control. You don't want it on. If I get one of the biggest calls I get, 80% of the time, if I get a call within a half hour or an hour of somebody getting on the water, it's because the speed control's on and they don't know it. You always want to make sure the speed control is off. On this boat, it's really easy because when it's on, it is bright and it says on. When it's off, it's off. So you want to make sure that's off. If it won't go over a certain speed, it's probably because your speed control is on. They're a little bit different than cars in that on these, you got to get up to a certain speed and it kicks in. For example, when you hit this, when you put the speed control on, it's now set for surfing at 11.1, 11.2. That would be a good surfing speed for many, many people. When you take off with the boat, it goes about halfway, so you don't want to take this throttle and just crank it down, because if you do, it'll rev up way past its point and it won't be able to find its point. So you get it close to the speed you want to go, and usually the boat itself will find it know that you're doing it, it'll get it and kick it in. You'll hear it. There'll be a beep that tells you it's on. And then you won't be able to go over that speed. The way to disengage it is you just redo the pull back on the throttle, and it now is going on wakeless speed. When you're done with it, if you take off going really fast and you just say, oh, I forgot, and you hit it, it won't go off. You've got to bring the boat down to wakeless speed, wait for it to settle, and then turn it off, and then you can take off and go whatever speed you want at that point. That I get a lot of calls on all the time. With your blower, the blower, you can always tell it's on. You can hear that it's on, and so it's not hard to leave that one on. With your bilge, the bilge is on. It's got such a slight hum. You could leave it on the whole time and not know that it's on, and it can drain your battery or do whatever. That's why you turn the batteries off at the end, in case you've left something on like that. Usually when I turn on a boat, I usually am checking before I put it in the water. I open everything off to make sure we don't have any water coming in the boat or anything. At that point, if there's bilge that was left on, you'll hear it. It's got a slight hum on it. Okay. Okay, so all these boats have really nice wakeboard racks. You want to make sure that they are secured because they'll pop up. See how it pops up? Sometimes you got to push them around a little bit for them to be solid. Then when you're done, you lift them up and you can pull them. There's usually a couple places it can go. You bring it in locks. This one will come all the way in so that you can take off your boards and then you can put it back out. These, you basically put this on and it tightens right up to your board. Okay, both of these will come out. Usually I load the boards on the inside here and then I push them out. I generally speaking will put a couple of wakeboards back there. They are big enough. You can put some surfboards in them. However, on the bimmy top, we also have a couple slots for surfboards, and that is on most of our boats.